Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
I was walking through Westfield Shopping Center last Tuesday evening, carrying bags from GameStop and Best Buy, looking for something special for my girlfriend Sarah's birthday next week. The holiday crowds were thick families with kids weaving between stores, couples holding hands by the fountain. I had just finished a brutal 14-hour shift at the construction site, and my back was killing me. But Sarah deserved something nice after all the overtime I'd been pulling lately. That's when I spotted Tyler near the food court, my cousin from my mom's side scrolling through his phone while eating a pretzel. I hadn't seen him since Thanksgiving last year. I walked up with a genuine smile, happy to run into family. "Tyler, hey man, good to see you." He looked up surprised but pleased. We chatted about work, his new apartment, the usual stuff. Then I asked the question that would change everything. "So when's the family trip happening? I've been so swamped with work I haven't checked the group chat lately." His face went completely blank. The pretzel stopped halfway to his mouth. "Wait," he said slowly, genuine confusion in his eyes. "You don't know we went last month?" The shopping mall noise faded to a dull roar. My stomach dropped like I'd just fallen off a building. I had paid $4,400 toward that vacation. I just stood there speechless, then pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking as I walked to the parking lot. Tyler's bewildered expression burned into my memory. The family reunion trip to Lake Tahoe had been planned for months. Every year, our extended family rented cabins by the lake for a week of fishing barbecues and catching up. I'd wired my contribution in September, same as always. Now Tyler was telling me they'd gone without me while I was working 16-hour days on the Morrison office complex project. I sat in my Ford pickup truck, engine running, staring at my phone screen. My mother Patricia's contact photo smiled back at me, a picture from last Christmas where she looked so proud and loving. I hit call, my thumb trembling slightly. She answered on the third ring with her usual cheerful voice. "Bruno, sweetheart, how are you doing?" "Mom, I just ran into Tyler at the mall." I kept my voice steady, professional. "He told me you guys already went to Lake Tahoe last month. Is that true?" There was a pause. Too long of a pause. Then nervous laughter that made my skin crawl. "Oh, that? Well, honey, it was really last minute. We tried to reach you, but you've been so busy with work, and we couldn't get through, so we just—" "Mom," I cut her off. "I paid $4,400 for that trip. I have the wire transfer confirmation on my phone right now. September 15th. You said it was due by the 20th or we'd lose the cabin reservation." Another pause. When she spoke again, her voice had changed completely. Gone was the warm, motherly tone. Now she sounded cold, defensive. "Bruno, you've been so difficult lately. Always complaining about work, always stressed out and negative. The family felt like we needed some peaceful time together without all the drama you've been bringing to gatherings." I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. Difficult drama mom. I've been working myself to death to afford that trip. I haven't seen you guys since Thanksgiving because I've been pulling overtime every weekend to make ends meet. Well, maybe if you managed your money better and weren't always struggling, you wouldn't have to work so much. Emma organized the whole thing, and she said you bring negative energy to family events lately. People want to relax on vacation, not listen to complaints about your job." My sister Emma. Of course. She'd always been Patricia's favorite, the successful marketing manager who lived in the nice suburb with her husband and 2 kids. But this was beyond sibling rivalry. This was theft. "So you took my $4,400 and went without me?" "That money went toward the trip expenses, Bruno. Just because you didn't attend doesn't mean the costs disappeared. The cabin still needed to be paid for." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own mother was justifying stealing from me. "I want my money back, Mom. All of it. And I want to know exactly who made the decision to exclude me and when." "Now you listen to me, young man. I'm not going to be threatened by my own son. If you have a problem with how the family handles things, maybe you need to take a long look in the mirror and ask yourself why you're always on the outside looking in. Are you serious right now? You stole from me, and now you're blaming me for it. I'm done with this conversation, Bruno. When you're ready to apologize for your attitude and contribute to this family in a positive way, you can call me back. Until then, don't contact me with these ridiculous accusations. The line went dead. She had actually hung up on me. I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, watching families walk past with their shopping bags and happy conversations. Everything I thought I knew about my family, every assumption I'd made about their love and support, was crumbling. The woman who had raised me, who I'd called every Sunday for the past 10 years, had just defended stealing my money and excluding me from the family like I was some kind of toxic stranger. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. Dude, I had no idea you didn't know. I thought you decided not to come. This is really messed up. I started the truck and drove toward my apartment, my mind racing through every family interaction from the past few months. Patricia's short phone calls, Emma's excuses for not inviting me to her kids' birthday parties, Uncle Robert's weird comments about me, getting my priorities straight. It was starting to make sense in the worst possible way. Sarah's car was already in the parking spot next to mine when I got home to our complex on Maple Street. She worked the evening shift at St. Mary's Hospital and usually got home around 11:30, but tonight, she was early. I found her in our small kitchen, still wearing her blue scrubs, heating up leftover pizza in the microwave. She took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. What happened? You look like someone died. I sat down at our tiny dining table and told her everything. The mall encounter with Tyler, the devastating phone call with my mother, the $4,400. Sarah's expression shifted from confusion to anger to something resembling shock as the story unfolded. They actually went without you after you paid. Not just went without me. My mom basically said I wasn't invited because I'm too negative and difficult. Like paying my share of the vacation was some kind of privilege I hadn't earned. Sarah sat down across from me, her dark brown hair still pulled back from her 12-hour shift. Bruno, that's not just mean, that's theft. You can't take someone's money for a trip and then exclude them. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through my banking app looking for the wire transfer confirmation. There it was, September 15th, $4,400 to Patricia Santos Memo Line, Tahoe Trip 2024. But as I scrolled through more recent transactions, something else caught my attention. Sarah, look at this. The original group chat from back in July when we were planning the trip. Emma said the cost was $3,200 per person for basic lake cabins, but I ended up paying $4,400. Where did that extra $1,200 go? Sarah moved her chair closer to mine so she could see the phone screen. We scrolled back through months of family group messages, piecing together the planning timeline. The picture that emerged made my stomach turn. In August, Emma had sent a message to the group saying they had an opportunity to upgrade to premium lakefront cabins with a private dock and chartered boat access, but it would require additional contributions from everyone. I'd responded immediately, saying I could cover the extra amount because I'd been doing well with overtime pay. Several family members, including my Uncle Robert and cousin Ashley, had responded with gratitude, saying they couldn't afford the upgrade, but would love to enjoy it if others could help cover the cost. I had essentially paid for luxury accommodations that I was never meant to enjoy. Bruno, this is calculated. Look at the dates. Sarah pointed to the message timestamps. Emma organized the upgrade in August. Your mom mentioned last-minute plans, but Tyler posted pictures from Tahoe on October 15th. That was 6 weeks ago, not last minute at all. I scrolled to Tyler's Instagram and found the photos Sarah was referring to. My family, all of them grinning on the deck of a beautiful lakefront cabin. Uncle Robert holding a beer by an expensive-looking boat. Ashley and her kids playing in crystal-clear water. Emma and my mother laughing together at what looked like a restaurant with a view of the mountains. They were enjoying exactly the luxury upgrades my money had paid for. My phone buzzed with a voicemail notification. I must have missed a call while I was looking at the photos. When I played the message, my blood went cold. It was my sister Emma's voice, but she clearly thought she had hung up. I could hear her talking to someone in the background. "Yeah, I think he bought it. Mom handled it perfectly. He's always been gullible when it comes to family stuff. Robert said we should have done this years ago instead of dragging him along when he just complains the whole time anyway." Another voicemail responded. "What if he asks for the money back?" "He won't. Bruno's too passive. He'll sulk for a while and then pretend like nothing happened because he's desperate to stay connected to the family. Uncle Robert's been dealing with his attitude at work anyway, so this actually solves two problems." The message cut off there, but I had heard enough. This wasn't a spontaneous decision or a miscommunication. My own sister had orchestrated my exclusion and theft, and they'd planned it for months. Sarah grabbed my arm. "Bruno, there's something I need to tell you. I didn't think it was important before, but now—" She pulled out her own phone and opened Facebook Messenger. "Tyler sent me a message 3 weeks ago. I thought it was weird, but I didn't want to make drama over nothing." She showed me the message thread. Tyler had written, "Hey Sarah, just a heads up. We're trying to keep some family stuff quiet around Bruno for a while, until we can address his attitude situation. If he asks about any family plans or events, just say you don't know anything about it. Thanks for understanding." I stared at the message, reading it 3 times before the full meaning sank in. They had recruited my girlfriend to help with their deception. They had involved Sarah in lying to me about my own family's activities. "You didn't respond to this?" I asked. I didn't know what to say. I thought maybe there was some surprise being planned for you or some kind of family intervention for a problem I didn't understand. I figured if it was important, you'd tell me about it yourself. I stood up from the table, my chair scraping against the linoleum floor. Everything was becoming clear now. The short phone calls from my mother. My Uncle Robert's comments at work about my reliability. Emma's excuses for not including me in family events. This had been a coordinated campaign to push me out of the family while continuing to take my money. But why? What had I done to deserve this level of betrayal from the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally? I spent the next 3 hours at my laptop going through every financial transaction I'd made involving my family over the past 2 years. What I discovered made me sick to my stomach and furious at the same time. My Uncle Robert owns Santos Construction, the company where I work as a project supervisor. I'd been putting in massive overtime on the Morrison complex, sometimes working 70-hour weeks to meet deadlines. When I calculated my overtime pay based on federal labor standards, I realized Robert had been systematically underpaying me for hours beyond 40 per week. According to the Fair Labor Standards Act, any work over 40 hours requires time and a half pay. At my hourly rate of $28 overtime should have been $42 per hour, but Robert had been paying me straight time for everything, claiming that project supervisors were exempt employees. I looked up the exemption requirements online and discovered that my job duties didn't qualify for exempt status. Over 2 years, Robert had cheated me out of nearly $15,000 in legitimate overtime pay. But it got worse. Last Christmas, my grandmother had been diagnosed with diabetes complications, and the family had asked everyone to contribute to her medical expenses that insurance wouldn't cover. I'd given $3,000 money I could barely afford, but felt obligated to provide for my grandmother's health. I called my grandmother's assisted living facility and asked to speak with the billing department. After explaining that I was her grandson and had questions about her account, the billing specialist told me something that made my hands shake with rage. "Mr. Santos, your grandmother's medical expenses were completely covered by her supplemental insurance plan. She hasn't had any outstanding medical bills since she enrolled in September." My $3,000 had never gone to grandmother's medical care. I dug through my text messages, and found the Venmo request from Emma for the medical fund contribution. The money had gone directly to Emma's account, not to any medical facility or insurance company. I kept digging through my financial records looking for other irregularities. In June, I'd loaned my cousin Ashley $2,000 for what she said was an emergency car repair. She promised to pay me back within 6 weeks, but had been dodging my calls ever since. Now looking at her Instagram posts from the Lake Tahoe trip, I noticed she was wearing an expensive wedding dress in one photo. I did a reverse image search on the dress photo and found it on a bridal boutique website in Sacramento. The dress cost $4,000. The boutique's Instagram page had a post from October 8th showing Ashley as their beautiful bride of the week. My emergency car repair loan had actually been her wedding dress down payment. Sarah found me surrounded by bank statements, printouts of Instagram posts, and legal websites about wage theft. "How bad is it?" she asked. "Sarah, they've been stealing from me systematically for at least 2 years. The vacation money, the fake medical bills for grandmother, the overtime pay, the wedding dress loan. I think I'm up to over $20,000 that my own family has taken from me through lies and fraud." She sat down next to me on the couch. "Bruno, you need to check your credit report. If they're willing to do all this, they might have gone further." I had never thought of that, but it made horrible sense. I logged into my bank's credit monitoring service and requested a full credit report. What I found there made me want to throw up. Someone had opened a Visa credit card in my name in September, right around the time I'd paid for the Lake Tahoe trip. The card had a $5,000 limit, and it was nearly maxed out. I looked at the transaction history, my heart pounding. 4 charges at expensive restaurants in Lake Tahoe, California, between October 12th and October 18th. The exact dates of the family trip I'd been excluded from. Charges at a boat rental company. A charge at a high-end grocery store for what looked like party supplies. Another charge at a liquor store. My own family had not only stolen my vacation money and excluded me from the trip, but they'd also used a credit card opened illegally in my name to pay for their luxury dining and entertainment while they were there. I was financially supporting their betrayal of me without even knowing it. "Sarah, they committed identity theft. This isn't just family drama anymore. This is actual criminal fraud." My phone rang. It was my mother, Patricia, calling back. I almost didn't answer, but Sarah encouraged me to pick up and put it on speaker so she could witness whatever was said. "Bruno, I've been thinking about our conversation earlier, and I want to make something very clear to you." Patricia's voice was cold and controlled. "Your father and I raised you to be respectful and grateful for family. If you're going to continue making wild accusations and being disruptive, then maybe it's time for you to take a break from family events until you can get your attitude straightened out. Mom, someone opened a credit card in my name and used it to pay for restaurants and activities during your Lake Tahoe trip. That's identity theft. That's a federal crime." Silence for a moment. Then, "I have no idea what you're talking about. You're sounding paranoid and unstable, Bruno. I think you need professional help. I have the credit card statements right here. 4 charges in Lake Tahoe on the exact dates you were there. How do you explain that?" "I explain it by saying you're having some kind of mental breakdown and trying to blame your family for your own financial problems. I won't listen to these crazy conspiracy theories anymore." She hung up again. Sarah and I looked at each other in stunned silence. My mother was gaslighting me, trying to make me question my own sanity rather than acknowledge what was right there in black and white documentation. "Bruno, you can't let them get away with this. This isn't about family loyalty or keeping the peace anymore. They're criminals." She was right. But I knew that confronting them directly would just lead to more denials and manipulation. I needed a different approach. I needed evidence they couldn't deny and consequences they couldn't ignore. I picked up my phone and started making a list of every person who might have information about what had really happened with the Lake Tahoe trip and my family's financial schemes. It was time to fight back. Sunday dinner at Uncle Robert's house had been a monthly tradition for as long as I could remember. The whole extended family would gather in his spacious dining room on Oakwood Drive, sharing food and catching up on each other's lives. Today, I was going to crash their cozy little party with a folder full of evidence that would destroy their comfortable lives forever. I had spent Saturday organizing everything into a clear chronological presentation. Bank statements showing the $4,400 wire transfer. Screenshots of the group messages about the trip planning and upgrades. Printouts of my grandmother's billing records proving no outstanding medical expenses. The illegal credit card statements showing charges in Lake Tahoe. My calculated overtime pay shortages. Tyler's Facebook message to Sarah about keeping family plans secret. Everything was documented, time-stamped, and undeniable. Sarah offered to come with me for moral support, but I needed to do this alone. This was my family, my betrayal, my fight. I arrived at Uncle Robert's house at exactly 2 o'clock, when I knew the whole family would be gathered around the dining table. I could hear laughter and conversation through the front windows as I walked up the driveway. For just a moment, I felt the old, familiar warmth of family gatherings, the sense of belonging I'd cherished my entire life. Then I remembered the credit card fraud and the stolen overtime pay, and my resolve hardened. I rang the doorbell instead of walking in like I usually did. Emma answered the door, her face going pale, when she saw me standing there with a manila folder under my arm. Rowena, what are you doing here? We weren't expecting you. I bet you weren't. I need to talk to everyone, right now. She tried to block the doorway. This isn't a good time. We're in the middle of dinner and the kids are here. Move, Emma, I'm coming in. I pushed past her into the living room, where the entire family was indeed gathered around Robert's big oak dining table. My mother, Patricia, Uncle Robert, Emma, and her husband, David cousin Ashley, and her new husband, Marcus cousin Tyler, and Robert's wife, Janet. All of them looked up as I entered, their expressions shifting from surprise to discomfort to something approaching fear. Bruno, my mother said carefully. What a surprise! We didn't know you were coming. I'm sure you didn't. I set the folder down on the coffee table with a loud thump. We need to have a conversation about Lake Tahoe and about the money you've all been stealing from me. The room went completely silent. Even the kids stopped chattering and looked toward the adults with confused expressions. Uncle Robert stood up from his chair, his face already flushing red. Now hold on just a minute, Bruno. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you can't come into my house making accusations. Actually, I can, because I have proof. I opened the folder and pulled out the bank statements. $4,400 I paid for a family vacation I was deliberately excluded from. Money that paid for luxury upgrades you all enjoyed while lying to my face about the trip being canceled. I spread the papers out on the coffee table where everyone could see them. Screenshot of Tyler's message to my girlfriend asking her to keep family plans secret from me. Credit card statements showing charges in Lake Tahoe on a card that was opened in my name without my permission. Documentation of overtime pay theft from Robert's company totaling nearly $15,000 over 2 years. Emma tried to interrupt. Bruno, you're being paranoid. There are reasonable explanations for all of this. Really? I pulled out my phone and played the voicemail where she thought she had hung up. Her own voice filled the room talking about how I was gullible and they should have excluded me years ago. The color drained from Emma's face. Around the table, family members were looking at each other with panic in their eyes. And here's my personal favorite. I continued pulling out the medical billing records. $3,000 I gave for grandmother's medical expenses. Turns out grandmother hasn't had any outstanding medical bills since September. So, where did my $3,000 actually go, Emma? This is insane, Ashley said, her voice shaking. You're acting like we're some kind of criminal organization. You opened a credit card in my name and used it to pay for restaurants while you were on the vacation I funded but couldn't attend. That's literally identity theft and credit fraud. Federal crimes, Ashley. Uncle Robert's face had gone from red to purple. You're way out of line here, Bruno. You need to calm down and think about what you're saying. I'm thinking very clearly, Robert. Clearer than I've thought in years. You've been stealing my overtime pay, my family's been running financial scams on me, and you all conspired to exclude me from family events while taking my money. I'm done being the family ATM for people who obviously hate me." "We don't hate you," my mother said, but her voice lacked any conviction. "Your family, Bruno, we love you." "Funny way of showing it, Mom. Hanging up on me when I asked about my stolen money, telling me I'm too negative and difficult to include in family gatherings. Having Emma organize my exclusion behind my back while still taking my financial contributions." The conversation was spiraling toward shouting, and I could see Robert's temper reaching its breaking point. But I wasn't done yet. "I want my money back. All of it. The vacation money, the fake medical expenses, the overtime pay, everything the credit card company is going to charge me for your Lake Tahoe dining experiences. And I want a written apology acknowledging what you did." Robert slammed his hand on the dining table, making the dishes jump. "You ungrateful little piece of garbage. After everything this family has done for you, after all the opportunities I've given you at the construction company, this is how you repay us. Coming into my house and making these ridiculous demands? Opportunities you've been stealing my wages for 2 years. I've been employing you when nobody else would hire someone with your attitude problem. You're lucky I keep you around at all." The mask was finally coming off. All the pretense of family love and loyalty was disappearing, replaced by ugly truth. Emma joined in, her voice rising to a near scream. "You've always been jealous of everyone else's success, Bruno. Always complaining about money, always playing the victim. We're tired of walking on eggshells around your negativity. So you decided to steal from me instead of just cutting me off." "We tried to include you," Ashley said. "But you make every family gathering unpleasant with your constant stress and financial problems." I looked around the room at these people who shared my blood, who I'd grown up loving and trusting, and realized they were strangers. Worse than strangers. They were predators who had been systematically exploiting my loyalty and affection. "You know what the most pathetic part is?" I said, my voice dropping to a calm, steady tone that seemed to unnerve them more than shouting. "I would have given you guys money if you'd just asked. If Emma needed help with her kids, if Ashley wanted her wedding dress, if Robert's business was struggling, I would have helped because I loved you. But instead you chose to lie and steal and manipulate. You chose to make me feel like I was the problem while you robbed me blind." My mother stood up, her face twisted with an expression I'd never seen before. "You need to leave, Bruno, right now, before you say something you'll really regret." "I'm not the one who's going to have regrets, Mom." Robert moved toward me, his hands clenched into fists. "Get out of my house, now, and don't ever come back. Or what, you'll hit me." "Go ahead, Robert. Add assault to your list of crimes. I'm sure the police will find that very interesting when I file my report tomorrow morning." That stopped him cold. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Emma pulled out her phone. "I'm calling 911. You're threatening us and refusing to leave. This is trespassing and harassment." "Actually, Emma, please do call the police. I'd love to show them all this evidence while we're all here together." She started dialing anyway, her hands shaking. 911, I need police at 1542 Oakwood Drive. My brother is threatening my family and refusing to leave the house." As I listened to Emma lie to the emergency dispatcher, something inside me finally snapped into place. These people weren't my family anymore. They were criminals who had been victimizing me for years, and now they were trying to have me arrested to cover their tracks. But I had one more card to play. I quietly pulled out my phone and started the voice recording app, holding it down by my side where they couldn't see it. If they wanted to continue making threats and admissions while we waited for police to arrive, I was going to capture every word. The sirens were already getting louder in the distance. Officer Martinez was a 20-year veteran of the police force, and it showed in how carefully he listened to everyone's story before making any judgments. When the police arrived at Uncle Robert's house, my family expected me to be arrested for trespassing and harassment. Instead, Officer Martinez separated everyone and took detailed statements while his partner examined the evidence I'd brought. "Sir, can you walk me through these financial documents?" Officer Martinez asked, sitting across from me in Robert's living room, while the rest of the family waited outside. I explained the timeline chronologically, showing him each piece of documentation: the vacation payment and exclusion, the overtime pay calculations, the credit card fraud, the fake medical expenses, the voice recording of Emma discussing their deception. Officer Martinez took notes and made copies of everything with his phone camera. "Mr. Santos, this looks like a pattern of financial exploitation and possible elder abuse schemes. Have you considered that your family might have done this to other relatives?" I hadn't thought of that, but it made immediate sense. My Aunt Linda was cut off from the family about 5 years ago. My mother always said it was because Linda became difficult and ungrateful. But now I'm wondering if she discovered something. Do you have contact information for this aunt? Sarah might have it. Linda reached out to my girlfriend on Facebook a few months ago trying to reconnect with me, but my mother told me to ignore it because Linda was just trying to cause family drama. Officer Martinez nodded. "I'm going to recommend that you contact the district attorney's office tomorrow morning. What you've described here constitutes multiple felonies: identity theft, credit fraud, wage theft, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The DA will want to see all this evidence." After the police left without arresting anyone, which clearly shocked my family, I drove home to find Sarah researching Linda's contact information. She'd saved Linda's Facebook message from back in August. "Bruno, I think you need to call her tonight. If Officer Martinez is right about patterns of family financial abuse, Linda might have information that could help your case." I was exhausted and emotionally drained, but Sarah was right. I called the number Linda had provided in her Facebook message. She answered on the second ring. "Bruno, is that really you?" "Hi, Aunt Linda. I know this is going to sound strange, but I need to ask you about why you were cut off from the family 5 years ago." There was a long pause. "Oh, honey, what did they do to you? How did you know something happened?" "Because the exact same thing happened to me. Patricia and Robert and Emma ran the same schemes on me that they're probably running on you right now. I tried to warn other family members, but they convinced everyone I was mentally unstable and lying." My hand started shaking again. "Can you meet with me tomorrow? I need to know everything." Linda lived in an apartment complex about 30 minutes away. When I arrived Monday evening after work, she answered the door with a thick folder that looked eerily similar to the evidence collection I'd started building. "I've been waiting 5 years for someone else in the family to figure out what they were doing," she said, inviting me into her small but tidy living room. "I knew eventually they'd target someone else once they'd drained everything they could get from me." Linda spread her documents out on her coffee table. Bank statements, forged signatures, documentation of stolen inheritance money, evidence of financial manipulation that totaled over $30,000. "It started with small things," she explained. "Emergency loans that were never repaid, contributions to family events that I wasn't invited to. Then Robert offered to help manage some of my finances when I was going through my divorce, and I was stupid enough to trust him." She showed me forged loan documents where Robert had borrowed money from her savings account without permission. Fake medical bills for family members, contributions to a family investment fund that had never existed. But the worst part, Bruno was discovering what they'd hidden about your grandfather's will. My grandfather had died when I was 22, and I'd been told that he'd left everything to my grandmother with the understanding that it would be distributed to the family after her death. But Linda showed me a copy of the actual will, which she'd obtained through legal channels after her own victimization. "Your grandfather left you 50% ownership of Santos Construction, Bruno. Robert was only supposed to manage it until you turned 30. He was supposed to turn control over to you 3 years ago, along with all the profits from your share of the business." I stared at the legal document, reading my name and the ownership details. According to the will, I owned half of the construction company where I was currently being cheated out of overtime pay by my own uncle. Robert has been stealing profits that legally belong to you for 3 years, based on the company's revenue that's probably over $100,000. Everything was starting to make sense. Robert's resentment toward me at work, the family's coordination to exclude me while continuing to take my money. They weren't just running random scams. They were systematically stealing my inheritance while keeping me ignorant of my legal rights. Linda, why didn't you try harder to contact me before now? I did try, honey, but they convinced everyone that I was lying and trying to cause trouble. Even you believed them. When I reached out to Sarah on Facebook, I was testing to see if you were still under their influence, or if you were ready to hear the truth. I thought back to my mother's warnings about Linda being difficult and ungrateful. The same language she'd used to describe me during our phone call about Lake Tahoe. What did you do when you found out about all this? I hired an attorney and tried to recover my stolen money through legal action. But by the time I figured out what was happening, they'd already spent most of it and transferred assets to make them harder to recover. I got back about $15,000, but the legal fees ate up most of that. Linda handed me a business card. This is my attorney, Jennifer Walsh. She specializes in family financial crimes and elder abuse cases. She's been waiting to hear from you for 3 years. Waiting for me. Bruno, when we were building my case, we uncovered evidence that they were planning to do the same thing to you eventually. Jennifer has been tracking their activities through public records and business filings, waiting for you to become their next target, so we could build a comprehensive case against the whole family operation. I looked at the business card and my mind racing. You mean this has all been planned? My exclusion from family events, the financial exploitation, everything. Honey, you were never their family member. You were their retirement plan. They've been keeping you close and financially dependent so they could drain your inheritance and wages while keeping you too isolated and confused to fight back. Linda walked over to a filing cabinet and pulled out one more folder. Jennifer asked me to give you this if you ever contacted me. Inside the folder was a comprehensive legal strategy for recovering my stolen inheritance documentation of Robert's business finances, showing hidden profits and a timeline of criminal charges that could be filed against each family member. There's something else, Bruno. You're not their only target. Jennifer has identified at least 2 other family members who are being exploited the same way. If you're willing to cooperate, we can bring down their entire operation and recover money for everyone they've victimized. I sat in Linda's living room until midnight, reading through 3 years of legal research and planning. My aunt hadn't just been cut off from the family. She'd been building a case to destroy their criminal enterprise and waiting for the right moment to strike back. Tomorrow morning, I was going to call Jennifer Walsh and start the process of reclaiming everything that had been stolen from me. For the first time in months, I felt like I was going to win. Attorney Jennifer Walsh's office occupied the top floor of a sleek building downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. When I arrived Tuesday morning, she was already familiar with my entire situation through Linda's detailed briefings and her own investigative work. Mr. Santos, I've been preparing for this meeting for 3 years. Your family has been operating a sophisticated financial exploitation scheme, and you're the key to shutting it down completely. Jennifer spread out a comprehensive legal strategy across her large conference table. She'd already researched criminal statutes, civil remedies, asset recovery procedures, and business law related to my stolen inheritance. First, the criminal charges. We have evidence for identity theft, credit fraud, wage theft, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The district attorney has been building cases against family fraud rings, and yours is one of the most well-documented they've seen. She showed me projected financial damages that took my breath away. The vacation money fake medical expenses and credit card fraud totaled $8,700. The stolen overtime pay over 2 years came to $14,800. But the big number was my inheritance. Based on business financial records I've obtained through legal discovery, Robert has collected approximately $87,000 in profits from your 50% share of Santos Construction over the past 3 years. That money belongs to you, plus interest and penalties. Jennifer had already filed emergency motions to freeze Robert's business accounts and prevent asset transfers while the legal case moved forward. She'd also submitted criminal referrals to the district attorney's office for prosecution of all family members involved in the schemes. The most satisfying part will be tomorrow morning when legal papers are served simultaneously at your uncle's house, your mother's house, and your sister's workplace. They'll discover that you've assembled an ironclad legal case and that their criminal activities are about to become very public. Wednesday morning, I called in sick to work and waited for Jennifer's call. At exactly 10:30, my phone rang. "Bruno, the papers have been served. Your Uncle Robert is in custody. The business accounts are frozen. Your mother and sister are demanding to speak with you immediately." I had expected them to fight, but I hadn't anticipated complete panic. My phone started ringing constantly. Patricia, Emma, Tyler, Ashley, even Robert's wife Janet. I let every call go to voicemail. Finally, I answered when Emma called for the 7th time. "Bruno, please, you have to stop this. Robert could go to prison. Mom could lose her house. We can work something out, but you can't destroy the entire family over money." "It's not about the money, Emma. It's about years of lies and betrayal and theft. It's about you coordinating to exclude me from family events while stealing my inheritance. It's about identity theft and fraud and treating me like a walking ATM instead of a human being. We can pay you back everything you think we owe you. Just call off the lawyers and the police." "What I think you owe me, Emma, you opened a credit card in my name. You stole my overtime pay. You took money for grandmother's medical bills that didn't exist. You excluded me from a vacation I paid for while using my money for luxury upgrades. And then you tried to have me arrested when I confronted you with evidence. Bruno, please, think about what you're doing to the family." "I'm doing to the family what the family did to me. The difference is what I'm doing is legal." Emma started crying, which would have worked on me 6 months ago, but now just made me angry. "Robert said he'll transfer the business to you. Complete control, all the profits, everything. Just make this legal stuff go away. Robert doesn't get to negotiate anymore. This is in the hands of prosecutors and judges now." I hung up and turned my phone off. Jennifer called me Thursday afternoon with an update that exceeded my wildest expectations. "Bruno, your sister Emma has confessed to everything. She's pleading guilty to fraud charges in exchange for cooperation with the prosecution of Robert and your mother. She's provided documentation of additional schemes they were running that you didn't even know about." Apparently, the family had been filing false insurance claims, running fake charity collection scams, and embezzling from elderly relatives for over 5 years. Emma's cooperation had opened up a much larger criminal investigation. Robert is facing federal charges that carry 10 to 15 years in prison. He's already agreed to transfer full ownership of Santos Construction to you, plus 3 years of back profits, plus damages for wage theft. The total settlement offer is $112,000. "What about the others?" "Your mother, Patricia, has to pay restitution for the vacation money and fake medical expenses, plus penalties. Ashley has to return the money for her wedding dress and pay fraud penalties. Tyler has been granted immunity in exchange for testimony, but he has to issue a public apology acknowledging his participation in the scheme." I sat in Jennifer's office looking at settlement documents that would make me financially whole and hold my family accountable for years of exploitation. "There's one more thing, Bruno. The district attorney wants to use your case as a model for prosecuting family financial abuse. Your story is going to help other victims who are being exploited by relatives." Friday morning, I received an official letter from Santos Construction's board of directors acknowledging my rightful ownership and offering me full control of the company effective immediately. Robert's signature was on the document along with his resignation letter. But the most satisfying moment came when Tyler posted his court-mandated public apology on Facebook, where all our mutual family friends and extended relatives could see it. I want to publicly acknowledge that I participated in excluding my cousin Bruno from family events, while he was financially supporting those same events. Bruno was never difficult or negative. Our family was stealing from him and lying to him for years. I am deeply sorry for my role in this betrayal, and I understand that Bruno has no obligation to forgive us or maintain any relationship with people who treated him so badly. The post had over 100 comments from shocked relatives, family friends, and co-workers who had witnessed years of my family talking badly about me while secretly exploiting me. My phone had been buzzing for 3 days with messages from people apologizing for believing the family's lies about my character and expressing support for my decision to fight back legally. But the most important call came Sunday morning from my grandmother. "Bruno, honey, I just learned what Patricia and Robert did to you. I am so ashamed that my own children would steal from their family and lie about medical bills in my name. I want you to know that you are welcome at my house anytime, and anyone who has a problem with that can stay away." For the first time in months, I felt like I had real family again. 60 days after serving legal papers on my family, the financial and legal reckoning was complete. Robert faced federal fraud charges and had been sentenced to 18 months in prison, plus 5 years probation. The business transfer was finalized, making me the sole owner of Santos Construction, along with all assets and accounts. Emma pleaded guilty to multiple fraud charges and received 2 years probation plus community service, but avoided jail time in exchange for her cooperation with prosecutors. She was also required to pay full restitution for the fake medical expenses and vacation fraud. My mother Patricia lost her court case and was ordered to repay the vacation money plus damages totaling $6,800. She refinanced her house to make the payment, which gave me no satisfaction, but felt like appropriate consequences. Ashley had to return the wedding dress money and pay additional penalties totaling $4,200. The most humiliating part for her was having to explain to her new husband why she was suddenly facing fraud charges and financial judgments. Tyler's public apology had been shared over 300 times on social media, reaching virtually everyone in our social circle and extended family network. Several relatives had contacted me privately to apologize for believing years of lies about my character and work ethic. But beyond the financial recovery and legal vindication, the most important outcome was the transformation of my life and relationships. I kept my promise to myself about running Santos Construction as an ethical operation. My first decision was promoting Jake Martinez and Tommy Chen, 2 experienced workers, who Robert had kept at low wages despite their skills and reliability. Both men had been underpaid for years, and I immediately corrected their compensation to industry standards. Within 6 weeks, word spread through the construction community that Santos Construction had become a great place to work. We started attracting top talent from competitor companies whose workers were tired of being exploited. The business became more profitable than ever because motivated, fairly paid employees produced higher quality work and met deadlines consistently. Sarah and I used part of my settlement money for the honeymoon we'd never been able to afford. We spent 10 days in Hawaii, staying at a beautiful resort in Maui, and posting photos that my excluded family members could see but couldn't comment on, since I'd blocked them all on social media. The irony wasn't lost on me that they'd excluded me from a Lake Tahoe vacation I'd funded, while I was now enjoying a luxury Hawaiian vacation funded by their court-ordered restitution payments. But the most meaningful relationship repair came with my Aunt Linda, who became the family connection I'd been missing. We had dinner together every Sunday, often joined by my grandmother, creating the authentic family bond based on mutual respect and genuine care. Linda introduced me to my cousin Marcus, from her side of the family, who I'd never met because Patricia had always discouraged contact with Linda's relatives. Marcus turned out to be a successful electrician who started contracting with Santos Construction, bringing additional expertise and revenue to the business. 3 months after the legal settlement, I received a letter from the district attorney's office thanking me for my cooperation in their family fraud investigation. My case had led to prosecutions of 2 other family exploitation rings and helped recover over $200,000 for elderly victims across the county. The letter included a request for me to speak at a community workshop about recognizing and reporting financial elder abuse. Standing in front of an audience of seniors and their families sharing my story of betrayal and recovery felt like the final step in reclaiming my dignity and helping other people avoid the trap I'd fallen into. During the question and answer session, an elderly woman asked me what advice I'd give to someone who suspects their family is financially exploiting them, but feels too guilty about family loyalty to take action. I thought about my answer carefully before responding. Family loyalty has to go both ways. If people claim to love you, but are stealing from you, lying to you, and excluding you while taking your money, they're not your family. They're criminals who happen to share your DNA. Real family members would never systematically exploit someone they care about. The hardest part was accepting that people I'd loved and trusted my entire life were capable of such calculated betrayal. But once I stopped making excuses for their behavior and started focusing on documented facts, the path forward became clear. You don't owe loyalty to people who have no loyalty to you. You don't owe forgiveness to people who aren't sorry for what they've done. And you don't owe family relationships to people who see you as a financial resource rather than a human being. 6 months later, Santos Construction had doubled its revenue and employed 15 people at fair wages. Sarah and I bought a house in a neighborhood we actually wanted to live in, rather than the cheapest apartment we could afford. Most importantly, I'd learned that blood relationships mean nothing without mutual respect, honesty, and genuine care. The family I'd built with Sarah Linda, my grandmother, and my ethical business relationships was stronger and more supportive than anything I'd ever had with people who shared my last name but not my values. On the first anniversary of the Lake Tahoe confrontation, Tyler sent me a private message apologizing again and asking if there was any chance of rebuilding our relationship. I responded honestly that there wasn't, but I wished him well in his life. Some bridges once burned are meant to stay that way. The construction business continued thriving. My relationship with Sarah grew stronger through facing adversity together, and my authentic family relationships with Linda and grandmother provided the connection and support I'd always wanted. Every morning when I arrived at Santos Construction, seeing my name on the building and knowing that every employee was paid fairly and treated with respect, I felt the deep satisfaction of having fought for what was right and won completely. Have you ever had to cut toxic family members out of your life, even when it was painful? How did you find the strength to choose your own well-being over family loyalty? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story helped you recognize similar patterns in your own family relationships, please like this video and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe for more true stories about overcoming betrayal and building better boundaries with the people in your life. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you deserve relationships built on honesty, respect, and genuine care. Take care of yourselves out there.